Welcome to Jets Overtime, presented by Duncan. Eric Allen inside the BetMGM studio for a final time here in the 2020 season. The New York Jets went to New England, had a lead in the second half, but things fell apart from there. The Pats take home a 28-14 victory at Gillette Stadium. The green and white finish this year 2-14 overall. They had high hopes entering this ball game, wanted to go out with a 3-game winning streak, but alas, it was not meant to be. And now the Jets have a critical offseason ahead as Joe Douglas, the Jets personnel staff, and company take a look at the organization and at the roster. There's a lot of holes to be filled here, and the Jets will get after that in earnest as I bring in both Anthony Becht and Eric Coleman. Anthony, Jets 14-7, had a lead there early in the third quarter, and it looked like they had actually all the momentum. But from there, the Patriots scored the final 21 points of this game.
Yeah, and it comes down to turnovers, right? I mean, that's the biggest story of the game. Sam comes out in the second half, leads the team down. Well, he ends the first half on a great drive, leads the team in the first drive of the second half. And for whatever reason, and it's kind of like, here we go, right? We see this great game. Everything's going the way you want it for Sam, and then something happens, right? Something just, a crazy turnover, offensively, and he gets two. And one ultimately was a game changer. It gave them really the momentum back that you talked about that the Jets had gained all the way back from Patriots had nothing from the first drive of the game. And then ultimately getting themselves back in. And then, of course, they get the ball back again with the throwback pass. And then now all of a sudden, you're on the outside looking in. So we've talked about it for multiple shows now. Sam's been at his best when he hasn't turned the ball over. And ultimately, that was the difference in the second half.
Yeah, Eric, we talked about complementary football and what we've seen from the Jets this season. The last 2 weeks, in fact, was the Jets were able to pick each other up. If one phase was struggling, the other phase would make a play. Today, that was not the case in the second half because the Jets, they couldn't have any answers. They didn't have any answers offensively, but defensively, they just fell apart down the stretch as well.
Yeah, I mean, there were several letdowns in the second half, not picking up backs out of the backfield. They ran a trick play. And the Patriots really did a great job of making halftime adjustments and, adding in some plays, some wrinkles off of some earlier plays that they ran. That fooled the Jets. They made a couple of mental mistakes on the back end. And now you're down, you have 21 points in the second half. So, I was really looking for the defense at the beginning of the game. They did a great job of bringing intensity. They were sharp. They were getting after the quarterback. They were doing well in coverage. But, as the game progressed, they slowly started to make mistakes, and the Patriots exposed them.
Hey, let's stay right there. You played the safety position. Take us through that game-tying touchdown where the Jets have a 14-7 lead, and Jacoby Myers gets a pitch, and Cam Newton has a ton of space. Were the Jets in man coverage there? It looked like Bryce Hall was kind of caught in no man's land. He was pointing coverage out. He saw what was happening, but what did you see from a defensive back's perspective?
Well, and that's why they ran such a great play. You see the reverse action, you see what's going on in the backfield, and there's so many responsibilities that you have. Okay, the receivers aren't running deep. I have to run this alley. I have to make sure that I have the cutback lane, and they start focusing on all the wizardry that's going on in front of them, and no one pays attention to Cam Newton, who's just drifting out of the backfield, ends up wide open and running for a touchdown or catching a touchdown pass. And it was a great design. It's easy to say, oh yeah, Neville Hewitt or Bryce Hall or whoever should have just picked him up and kept his eyes on him, but you're trying to make a play. You're trying to get to the ball, trying to play with your hair on fire, and that's the way that the Jets have played these last few games, and it's been great for them. Unfortunately, for the Jets, the Patriots put in something to counter that speed, that aggression, getting to the ball, and they put in a couple of trick plays, and that was a well-designed play by the Patriots.
Anthony, Cam Newton struggled throughout the year, but he looked like an all-pro against the Jets in both of these meetings. You're talking about, yeah, he got 79 yards on the ground. If I told you before the game, you'd be disappointed by that number. But through the air, 242 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I think that was the difference. Eric talked about all the good things the defense did. The one bad area was rushing, right? That was the biggest deal. They weren't able to stop the rush. The Patriots had almost 6 yards of carry. That is helpful for a quarterback like Cam Newton. It gives him a little more time. The pass rush wasn't as aggressive throughout, and he had a confidence. Cam's a very a streaky guy. He kind of plays off the momentum of where he's at in the game, and he had a really good start. Running the football, that 53+ yard run early in the game, it just gave him a little confidence, and he was able to make some connections. Get some plays down with his receivers, which he didn't get the last couple weeks. And at some point, you knew it was going to hit. But I think from a rushing standpoint, the one clear thing you had to take away from the Patriots in this game is not let them run the football. And they were able to, and that ultimately triggered their passing game.
Yeah, you're right about that as far as the rushing statistics. The New England Patriots totaled 404 yards overall. They had 166 yards rushing. Let's go back to Gillette Stadium right now and hear from Jets head coach Adam Gase.
Sam was playing a solid game up until those 2 picks in the second half. Could you just talk about the first one in particular and what kind of momentum change it created?
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know. I couldn't tell if the ball just got away from him. If he just, he threw it kind of high. It was going to be a tight window. They went into a zone coverage. Kind of was thinking that he was going to get to a check down, but I don't think we didn't really get out on that one. We were kind of hanging back. I mean, it was a 2-man route. I couldn't tell if he just missed a throw or something else happened.
Where are you emotionally after this one?
Well, I mean, I wanted to win this game. I mean, I've come up here enough times to, have this result. So, felt like we had good plans coming in, and we had a decent stretch there where we did some good things. We didn't finish it the right way.
Adam, what kind of message did you leave the team with after the game?
We talked about kind of our checkout procedure, and told the guys they did a good job sticking together this year, and keep getting better in the future.
Adam, how important was it for your team to come down the stretch and play? As you said, you guys got a 2-game winning streak. It started out great today against the New England Patriots, had an opportunity to win the game. How important was it for you to see them finish strong?
Yeah, I mean, that was, when you win 3 in a row, that's a good feeling. It's never easy to do. That's what I was just really hoping that we would be able to do, finish the season out with 3 in a row, because that's what you remember. And, we weren't able to do that.
Get running for less at Dunkin' with a $1 medium hot coffee with the sandwich purchase. America runs on Dunkin'. Participation may vary. Exclusions apply. Limited time offer. You are watching Jets Overtime presented by Dunkin'. For the final time in the 2020 season, the New York Jets lose to the New England Patriots by a 28-14 count. The green and white finished the season 2-14 overall. They will have the number 2 overall selection in the 2021 NFL Draft. As I bring back both Anthony Beck and Eric Coleman, obviously a very disappointed Adam Gase there, Adam. I should say, Anthony.
Yeah, it was a disaster season. Listen, the inevitable is probably happening here soon. You're ultimately judged on wins and losses. Anybody in the league that has 2 wins, regardless of your situation, very rarely gets a chance to come back and redeem themselves. And, listen, it's just been a disaster from top to bottom. You're talking about quarterback being out, injured. You're talking about receivers, the full gamut of receivers not being able to play till about week 8 or 9. Offensive linemen moving in and out. So multiple factors have come into play. But, sometimes that just doesn't matter. And then, of course, the advancing Sam and his growth and development. And I think, Sam will be the first one to tell you that he's regressed this year. And that ultimately, that's going to be the biggest decision, the toughest factor. When you start evaluating Sam Darnold is, how do you find over the last 2 years a string of games where you can say, okay, this is what we see, this is what we got, where honestly, we've been talking more about flashes, about moments, And that's the toughest thing when you're talking about putting it all together. And that'll be the biggest decision. I mean, you're going to make your decision on what you want to do from a leadership standpoint, and then you have to figure out, okay, on the field from a leadership standpoint, who is that guy going to be? And it's going to be either Sam, it's going to be either a rookie, which again will have some pitfalls regardless who you have, or do you go out and potentially get a free agent, veteran with a ton of experience that, just like everybody's saying, half the people say let Sam go and get a better experience somewhere else. It might be better for him, a change of scenery. Well, that may be good for a couple other quarterbacks out there that are currently in the league. So you got a lot of things going on, plus all the ammo, the draft picks, next year's 2 first-rounders that you can use as ammo this year. So you're just talking about just a plethora of options here. As though I don't envy Joe Douglas, I think this is an optimal opportunity for him to really set himself in stone of what kind of GM he's going to be.
All right, let's go right back to New England and hear from Jets quarterback Sam Darnold.
Sam, can you talk about the last interception in the game and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, they were just they're bracketing, and one of their guys fell off a Crowder and made a good play. Again, I think it's just trying to do too much, forcing it in there, and guy made a good play.
Sam, did you and Adam talk at all after the game, or have you talked at all after the game? And if so, what did you guys say to each other?
I mean, we just kind of talked about the play and not really. I mean, I know we're going to talk probably later tonight and tomorrow as well.
Sam, you just went on record to say that you didn't play well enough this year, that you weren't consistent enough. Why do you feel like in your third season, when most experts say that that's when a quarterback makes his biggest leap in the NFL, why do you feel like it didn't happen?
I don't know. I think we'll assess. Again, I didn't play consistent enough. I'm just right off the bat, I think I made too many impulse decisions, and I think I'm gonna go back and look at the tape and figure it out. But that's just kind of my thoughts right off the jump.
You are watching Jets Overtime, presented by Duncan. The green and white go down in New England today, a 28-14 score, as we bring back both Anthony Becht and Eric Coleman. Obviously, Sam Darnold not in a good headspace right now. Now 0-3 overall as a starter against the Patriots. You knew he was in a good place entering this ball game, a career high, 3 games with no turnovers. He was ending every drive with a kick. In this game, when it hung in the balance, fellas, 14-14, the turning point was an interception where a ball sailed intended for Rashad Perryman and lands in the hands of J.C. Jackson.
That's why it's so frustrating. You see Sam put 3 games together, taking care of the football. He has an excellent first half, ends the first half on a great drive with an amazing throw to Chris Herndon, and really just showing a lot of progress. And, the problem with Sam has been those impulse decisions, as he alluded to. He's trying to make a play, trying to make something that's not there. And those things hurt you. Those things have hurt Sam throughout his career. And, I don't think that they're going to be the picture of how everyone judges Sam, because I think his future is very bright. It's just frustrating to end the season on a low note. You don't know what's going to go on with free agency. You understand, the coach's situation. And it's just a tough situation for the whole organization right now. And, I feel for Sam. I think he's a great player. He's a great person. He's been an excellent leader for this organization. And, I have to give him his credit for the way that he's stuck in it mentally, continue to charge forward, learn from his mistakes, and just be trying to become a better player every week.
Anthony, on the promising side of things, Chris Herndon really stepped up down the stretch of this season. Today, 7 catches, 63 yards, and he knew he was going to get popped in the end zone on that touchdown catch in the second quarter, and he had no problem coming down with it.
Yeah, it was big for Chris. I mean, look, I got a lot of faith in Chris, but ultimately you can only do or take care of the opportunities that you get. And, having 9 targets in this game, Eric, is where I see him. I mean, 2 every quarter, 2 targets every quarter gets you to about 8, and you see the production he can have. We go back in the beginning of the season, and those 1 or 2 plays we all remember, well, what were the other plays that he was able to redeem himself? So, I think that the last couple games kind of assured him, there's no guarantees for any players, but look, me looking at it, I would keep him. I think he can be a very valuable weapon. when a coordinator and someone sees what the potential and they can do with him and utilizes him, in my opinion, properly, you're going to get the best out of him. But, you saw the confidence increase as his role expanded the last couple of weeks. And, look, you can say that about a lot of players. That's really the difference between players, taking on, and we've talked about this in the past, taking those next steps to be a good, productive player, or someone that just gets lost in the shuffle, turns the page, and then you have to replace. So hopefully that was enough for Chris to kind of launch board him into an early and better start to next season and long-term here for the Jets.
All right, let's get to Olivia Landis, who's standing by with Jets tight end Chris Herndon.
Team reporter Olivia Landis here with tight end Chris Herndon. Chris, you scored your second touchdown of the season today. The offense got off to a quick start, especially in that first half. What was going well for the offense in the first half of today's game?
I feel like we just stayed on schedule, and we didn't get complacent at all. When we had good plays, we continued to fight and execute, and be present. Make sure we're locked in on each play, and doing our best to make plays for one another.
What areas of growth did you see from this offense from the beginning of the season right up until the end?
We just continue to fight and continue to push and find ways to execute. It didn't start off how we wanted, and we struggled a bit. But one thing I, sat back and watched, everyone do, even on defense, we all continue to find ways to get better, starting in the classroom, taking care of our bodies, weight room, and allowing it to translate to the field. And we found a way to finish strong this last couple games.
And when you look back at this season, what are you most proud of when it comes to your personal game and your personal growth?
Just continuing to stay positive and stay confident in myself. I struggled a bit, and it could have been easy to let myself continue to dig myself in a deeper hole, but I continue to fight and continue to keep confidence in myself, faith in myself, and, found a way to just, make some plays towards the end.
Chris, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Have a safe flight home.
Thank you.
All right, let's move the story ahead because we can talk draft here. Remember, free agency precedes the draft, and I'm going to talk about the roster here in a little bit, but we're rolling along here on Jets Overtime presented by Duncan. The Jets have 9 selections in the 2021 draft. 5 of those picks will be in the top 3 rounds overall. And you have a pair of first-round picks, including the number 2 overall selection in the draft. That's a lot of capital. That's how you improve a roster. Not only draft, but ultimately you're going to have to develop a lot of these players. Anthony, when you look at this graphic, what jumps out to you?
I can't quite see the graphic, but I'm only guessing it's all the draft picks that you just mentioned. I'll say this. You talked about free agency being first. You're going to have to, make sure you know what the quarterback situation is coming out of college. So that has to be done prior to free agency starting because, there are going to be options, not just in the draft, but also free agency to get yourself a quarterback that you think best suits your team. So you have to have all those things in place. The ammo is there to really make this thing turn around. And I talked about, the different options that Joe Douglas is going to have with his staff to go rookie, to keep Sam, or to go a veteran quarterback. But whatever it is, they do lead you to different points. I mean, the amount of players that you can add to your roster to immediately make an impact, to make this team a winning ball club can happen fairly quick. You have your different options, but it's just how you want to delegate that quarterback position. It's so important. It's going to have to be both GM and coaching staff on the same page. They'll both have to do their assessments and valuations on what Sam has done. And then from there, that will decipher how your draft will go, how your free agency process will begin. And, it's going to be an exciting time. I'm excited for it. That's the one exciting thing we all have looking forward to this season that wasn't very exciting is that those graphics and everything you showed, there's a lot of opportunity there for this team to really be a much, much different roster than this year.
Eric, Joe Douglas did not make the selection of Quinnen Williams, but he looks like what he showed in 2020, he is a star in the making on that defensive interior. And then you go to the offensive side of the ball, the Jets could have a foundational pillar at left tackle, Mekhi Becton, who unfortunately didn't finish this game, along with fellow rookie Denzel Mims. But those are the kind of building blocks you need here.
Absolutely. You need impact players, guys who are going to make big plays for you. I mean, when I think of Quinnen Williams, you think about what he's done in the offseason to prepare his body, what he's done to improve on his game, and it showed on the field. You know, he was causing all kinds of trouble. He was getting tackles for losses, quarterback pressures, quarterback sacks. He was making a large impact on the games when he was in there. You look at Mekhi Becton, a guy who's been as solid as any left tackle in the league, does a great job run blocking, pass protecting, really one of those guys where you just don't have to worry about his spot. And you want to continue to grow on that. You know, the Jets have the number 2 pick, have the number 27 pick in the draft. That's going to be another opportunity to add some young players. You get them for a cheap price when you get them young, you know, as opposed to when you get them in the free agency. You're going to have to pay top dollar for those guys, but you still need to add them that way as well. But, you know, growing those foundation pieces, and then you add in some guys who are later in the draft, free agents, some other contributors that are going to make a big impact on this team. And then that's how you grow your program. And I think Joe Douglas has done a great job so far. You know, he has some tough times with guys opting out, injuries during the season. And, you know, you give him another draft, give him a round of free agency with a lot of money this year. I think he's going to make a big impact on this team.
Anthony, I would say none of us saw this coming. Jamal Adams traded right before the start of training camp. And I think in the years ahead, and you've said this on multiple occasions, the Jets won that deal. And if you are a Jets fan right now, you have some rooting interest in the playoffs. That's whoever is playing the Seattle Seahawks, because you own their first-round pick, not only this year, but in 2022 as well. C.J. Mosley opted out due to COVID this year. Le'Veon Bell, who we thought might be a force offensively for this team, he ended up being released, and he's going to finish the year with the Kansas City Chiefs. And then a lot of injuries again along the offensive line in the wide receiver position when we go and look back at the season.
Right. Well, you know, it is a win in that Jamal trade, you know, assuming that Joe, you know, takes care of business and makes the best pick, which you know, look, you go by his experience and what he's done so far, you're leaning on the side that will happen. You know, and listen, you can't eliminate all the players on this roster either. You know, you got to understand, you know, people talk, oh, well, the line was up and down. And, you know, they brought in a lot of linemen on one-year deals, on a few-year deal to try to get, you know, figure out what they had. You know, eventually guys have to, one, improve themselves and be better players, okay, because they've shown on tape that they can, but they need to be more consistent. And you also have to coach guys up better to bring the best out of them week in and week out. It's a collaborative effort, you know, to try to make things work, because, you know, as much as we can talk here, you can bring in a bunch of players. You can't replace everybody. Right. So you're going to have familiar faces back. You've got to be strategic on how you do it. And, you know, look, you know, we talk about how, you know, all the picks that Joe Douglas has, all the money that they have to spend. You know, this is this is going to be a tough. This is kind of unprecedented for a general manager to have this kind of ammo heading into an offseason. So, you know, you can stamp your approval on this team. You can make them better instantly. This is why you took the job with the New York Jets, because you saw that perspective as far as what you can make and build off of, and you have to now go out there and do it. This is your dream. This is your opportunity. You wait. Joe Douglas has been an area scout. He's worked his way up diligently under great tutelage over, you know, multiple teams. And now is the time for him to kind of put his stamp on why he wanted to become a GM. And I'm looking forward to seeing it, because, again, this is going to be unprecedented offseason. Not every team gets to say they have as many picks and as much money to spend as the Jets do.
That's a great point about development of young players, and we saw some of that this year. One of the guys on the defensive side of the ball who I thought really showed up today was an outside linebacker, an edge from Memphis, an undrafted free agent, Bryce Huff, and Ethan Greenberg talked to him after the game.
Now joined by Jets defensive lineman Bryce Huff. Bryce, how important is it for you and this defense to end the season on somewhat of a sour note?
I mean, you know, it's unfortunate. We work hard every week going into practice. I mean, watching film, it's the same focus in meetings. So, you know, it's kind of a downer just going out on a loss like this when we work so hard.
You know, for you individually, though, Bryce, you had a sack today. Saw some extended time with Terrell being out for that little bit there. Can you take us through that play?
You know, before the snap, we were just calling like pass, like get hot, like get off the ball and just go. So I was just thinking get off as hard as I can and just work my move and finish on the quarterback. And I worked my move, came free and got the set.
Bryce, what's your rookie year been like? How would you put it into words? Joining the Jets as someone as an undrafted free agent and then finishing the season with a significant amount of snaps and 2 sacks.
You know, I feel like as a rookie at any team, I mean, you're gonna face some adversity coming into the NFL, dealing with COVID, not being able to have a hands-on experience and just learn everything full blast coming in. So we've had to fight through that adversity. You know, we haven't won many games, but like it's been a learning experience, and I feel like I've gotten better being here, learning from these guys, learning from all my coaches. So I feel like it's been a really good learning experience and something to build off of.
Awesome. Bryce, appreciate the time. Thank you. Have a safe flight home.
Thank you.
Nice job by Bryce Huff today. A good interview from Ethan Greenberg as always. 1 sack, and he nearly had an other. The Jets season reached its conclusion today at Gillette Stadium in New England, a 28-14 loss to the Patriots. We know most of the Jets' opponents. In fact, I think it's 15 of the 16 opponents in 2021. The one left out there is either the LA Chargers or the Denver Broncos. The Jets will go out there next year. But if you take a look at the Jets' opponents in 2021, a Southern feel, NFC South, AFC South, and ironically, as we bring back both Anthony Beck and Eric Coleman. Anthony, Jacksonville Jaguars are coming to MetLife Stadium. They hold the #1 overall selection in the draft. The Jets, of course, #2.
Yeah, I think we can, safely say that Trevor Lawrence will be in the Jets Stadium at some point during the season. I think it's a very favorable schedule going off of what teams have done this year. Again, I really could see a big jump for this football team if things are done correctly in the offseason. You bring Tom Brady and the Buccaneers back through if he's still playing and that goes as planned. But a lot of interesting games there, and of course, you're trying to win a division, and it looks like right now the Bills are the preemptive next team to kind of make their push. Although you want to see it more than just a year, 2 years, and see if it can be more of a succession of things going on. I think for me, this is a favorable division to really, take the jump, make a boost, and get yourself back in the mix. But teams are fighting hard. Patriots are down, and teams want to find their way to get many, many steps ahead of New England for what they've done the last 20 seasons. And I think right now, the Jets have to be one of those teams that are following suit with, what Miami did this year, what Buffalo did, so they can compete and ultimately get themselves back to a playoff form team that I think every Jet fan wants to finally see.
I'm going to get back inside the division, but Eric, let me throw some names at you. The Jets are scheduled to have 19 unrestricted free agents, most notably safety, team MVP Marcus May, Brian Poole, who was a nickel cornerback here the past 2 seasons, Jordan Jenkins, long-term outside linebacker. I think at some point this season he became the longest tenured player on the Jets. That's how much roster overhaul we've seen here. Neville Hewitt, a guy who played well for the Jets at that inside linebacker spot. Speedster Brashad Perryman, who had more than 80 yards receiving today, set up that second touchdown, the Josh Adams short score today. Frank Gore, maybe he retires at 16,000 yards. Terrell Basham, an outside linebacker who had a pair of forced fumbles last week. So that's a long list. You have to make decisions on who you want to keep internally before you look externally, right, Eric?
Absolutely. You have to check what's in the building. There's nothing that would make you more satisfied than to pay one of the guys that you've seen grow. You know their work ethic. You know how they are as a person. There's no really questions about their personality. And I think to a guy like Marcus May, who won the team MVP this year, it just shows his character. He's been a leader since he got here. He's been a hard worker. He's performed on the field. And I think that he has to be a priority when you talk about guys in the offseason. Also Neville Hewitt. I thought Neville did a fantastic job the last couple of years at that inside linebacker position. I can only imagine what it would be like with he being next to C.J. Mosley. when he's back in the fold. Just a dominant force in there in the middle of that defense. So there's a lot of guys. You want to evaluate your own talent first before you go out and start picking other rosters and checking out that free agent pool. But definitely going to be a lot to choose from, a lot to address this offseason, and it's going to be exciting.
Final thoughts here, fellas. Anthony, you mentioned an unprecedented offseason for the New York Jets that we basically entered. Forget about 2-14. That's over right now. This is the merging point where 2020 ends and 2021 begins, and we've reached it right now. So Jets fans, there is a lot to look forward to. With that being said, you talked about the division. Who's the blueprint for the Jets if you look inside the division? The Bills, they found their quarterback. They build around him, and it seems like they're poised to make a run in the AFC playoffs. Then you think about the Miami Dolphins. They were left for dead at the beginning of last season. We'll have to see how the 4 o'clock games play out. They might miss the playoffs, but they were right in the mix all the way until the end. And they could potentially, Anthony, have the number 3 overall selection. So can you take something from both of those two teams' builds? Because when you look at the New England Patriots, they are no longer a buzzsaw. They have a lot of question marks themselves after a 7-9 season.
Yeah, initially you would say the Bills, but they've hit on their quarterback, 3 years ago, and they're actually adding pieces now to make them where they are. It's going to be more the blueprint of what the Dolphins did, if I have to pick within the division, because they were able to kind of do it without a quarterback. Now they have a rookie quarterback and still able to win 10 games with great defensive players. Nice weapons around the quarterback. The quarterback is still going through some ups and downs, though, and they had that backup quarterback in Ryan Fitzpatrick that was able to hold the fort down, get them a bunch of wins. So, yeah, the blueprint's there for both teams, but I think ultimately the blueprint's easy. You need more players. You need better players. You need starting caliber players. You need free agents that can come in and make splashes now that are going to be players that fantasy owners are going to buy and draft in the first round. You need those guys because they're the playmakers. And then, of course, you got to build your offensive, defensive lines and make sure you got something that can go out there, can compete for the entire year. And you've got to get lucky with the health of your football team. I just feel like the last 2 years, health has been a big issue. Is that training? Is that COVID? Is that just, pure, bad luck? I don't know what it is, but we need to see a season where players are available for 16 games throughout the year and potentially the playoffs, because if not, nobody can win. So the blueprint for me is exactly what you want to do with it, but you got to stay healthy. The best teams that play right now, their teams are healthy. They're making runs. You need a little bit of that luck as well.
And Eric, I also caution, and I know Anthony would second this, that you can't buy yourselves out of this position. People always look at free agency and say, oh, you got a ton of money. Well, the teams that are there at the top of the rung every year in the National Football League, they're not spending ridiculous amounts of money bringing people in from the outside, right, E?
Absolutely. You always want to address your needs with the draft. You want to develop players for their rookie years on and help them develop in your program. And then you go out and get your wants, get the must-haves with the free agents. A lot of times guys will try to buy a team, and it's tough to build chemistry. It's tough to build that work ethic, that trust when you have a lot of free agents on your team. I'm not saying don't go out and get some great players now, because like Anthony said, you need the talented players. You need the guys who are going to make the big plays, who are going to show up when the play counts. But you also want to do a great job in the draft of growing your own young players, having them mature in your program. You save a lot of money that way, and you get a lot of talent and a lot of production from those young players.
Well, I've enjoyed working with both of you guys throughout the year, and we're going to have a better 2021. There's no doubt about that. But final thoughts as we look back at 2020. Anthony, you go first.
Well, look, the season's over. Whatever happened this year, we've gone through it. We've seen it. I think the best thing for Jets fans is they weren't in the stadium to see it live. And hopefully next year they're going to see a much different ball club. They will see a much different ball club, and they're going to get to see it with their own eyes. I think it's something to get excited about. It's something to track. I know it would be tough for the Jets to get it together, but, going to the Senior Bowl would be great if they can put the pieces together. I'm not quite sure they'll be able to. They might have to take a pass on that, but moving forward with free agency, I think that's where it's all going to begin. And look, I'm looking for a little bit of a break. Don't get me wrong, but I also am excited about the future.
Eric, how about you?
Yeah, well, for Jets fans, as tough as this season was, as tough as this year was for all of us, I still think that the future is very bright for this young Jets football team. There's a lot of great pieces here that they can build on. I love what Joe Douglas does. Drafting Mekhi Becton, bringing in Denzel Mims, all these players, and I'm very excited about what the future holds, whether that's free agency, the draft, just continuing to build on this program. The future is bright for this team. They're going to be a competitor, I believe, as soon as next year. You look at the division, and there's nobody really that's just taking over. There's no dynasties here. All these teams are human. They can be beat, and I think that the Jets, if they can build a winner, and I believe they will, they're going to be competitive again very soon.
Happy New Year to you both and your respective families. Better days ahead. Wishing you both health and happiness, and we'll be talking to you throughout the offseason, fellas.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
This is our final Jets overtime of the 2020 season. Of course, we want to thank you, the fans, for coming back each and every week. I know it's been an awfully disappointing season. You all deserve better. I know this organization is going to do everything in their power to turn things around. You see Anthony backed Eric Coleman every week on camera. Tremendous guys, great analysts. Ethan Greenberg and Olivia Landis, I work with them daily. Obviously, they bring a lot to every one of our programs. And then there are a lot of people behind the scenes. So I'd be remiss if I didn't shout them out and give you a look at our crew here. And that's a long list, but that just speaks to how many people are involved in putting together a production like this. This is the first time we've had a post-game show. I hope you've enjoyed it. I think a lot of times you probably wanted to throw a rock at the TV because you were upset, or your phone or your laptop because of the result, and I get it. I just want to say that we've really enjoyed putting this production together, and also putting together Pregame Central. Pregame Central, Practice Today, and all our programs throughout the year. It's going to get better. You know what they say, that it's always darkest before the dawn. Well, the 2021 offseason begins in earnest right now for the New York Jets. Enjoy your evening. We'll be talking to you soon.